Hello, everyone. Hi, and welcome to our webinar. Before we get started, this is our first time using the SQL platform, so I want to make sure that everyone in the audience can hear us, can see us. If you are watching this webinar, which I know a bunch of you are, according to the webinar metrics on the side here, can you just do me a huge favor and put in the chat who you are, where you're from, and that you can hear us and see us all? Ivy is great. Awesome. Very cool. We're getting thumbs up. There's reacts on this platform. This is so very cool. Hi, everyone. And we are so excited for our webinar today. I would love for Alex, if you could put up on the live screen the webinar deck, the presentation deck that we have for y'all. Don't worry, audience. It's not a lot of deck. It's just 5 short slides. It's mostly going to be a conversation with these amazing folks here. Awesome. Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you for your patience. Thank you, everyone, for attending. My name is Gianna. I run the Cybersecurity Marketing Society. We are a global community that is basically an ISAC for marketers in the cybersecurity industry. So we share information on the market. We share ROI reports on various events, and we have a thriving, welcoming, and wonderful community where we help each other in this industry. We have about 5,000 members from more than 1,600 cybersecurity companies around the world. So if you are not a member of the Cybersecurity Marketing Society, please join us. I'd also like to thank LinkedIn for supporting us. They've been a partner of ours for over a year now. We love LinkedIn. We use LinkedIn. All of you know LinkedIn, and they are the ones who came together and said, hey, why don't we put together a webinar about creators and what are leading cybersecurity companies and creators doing together? So I'm super excited for becoming the voice of cybersecurity, CrowdStrike, LinkedIn, and Sandra Liu on the new rules of trust, which is why you're all here today. Before we begin, and yes, I have a little bit of a head cold from the hacker summer camp, which I just got back from yesterday. But before we begin, a couple housekeeping tips. Yes, this is our new webinar platform. And yes, you could chat. Hello, Valerie. Hi, Mariel. Hey, Manav. Hey, Sarwat. Hi, Bo. Oh, I'm already seeing the chat popping off. So feel free to post in the chat. We have Q&A open. We are likely not going to be able to get to all of the questions that you guys post today, but you could definitely post your questions in our Q&A. We will also be launching some polls throughout the webinar and some other interactive things. So keep the chat going, keep the emoji reactions going when our panelists are speaking, when you hear something you like. And of course, if you put a question in and we don't get back to it, we will get to it later today, or not today. Sorry, not committing to that. Later. We'll send you an email. All right. So this webinar is about AI. And before I introduce our amazing panelists, just some background. AI is reshaping how buyers discover and evaluate information. You all know that as marketers, it is the same in cybersecurity. And at the same time, creators, practitioners, and executives are emerging as some of the most trusted voices in the cybersecurity industry. Today, we're going to be exploring what that means for modern brands and how marketers can build authentic trust in this new era that we're all living in today. And that is the kickoff for an introduction of our amazing and talented and wonderful panelists. We have Vab Duwaldi. He is the Vice President of Digital Experiences at CrowdStrike. Thank you, Vab, for being on today.
Hey, Gianna, good to see you.
Yeah, I did a lot of talking. So I'm glad everyone. I'm going to pause and everyone can say hello. We have Sandra Liu, a cybersecurity creator with more than 200,000 followers on LinkedIn. Sandra, thank you so much for being on.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
Yay. Okay. And we have Eric Becker, a senior account executive at LinkedIn and an expert on LinkedIn's products that relate to creators and video and all other sorts of things. Hi, Eric.
Hey, thank you everyone for joining, and thank you to Gianna for partnering with us on this.
Awesome. So to set the stage, I want to play a quick video and let's see, I'm going to press screen share, and this is absolutely 100% going to work. But I want to set a quick screen. I want to share a very quick video of what like an introduction to what a creator campaign can look like when in the cybersecurity industry, featuring, I think, yours truly here, Sandra. One sec. We're getting heart reacts. Can everyone see this like LinkedIn screen? Audience? Heck yeah, I see it. Everyone else see it? Thumbs up. All right.
What if the future of cybersecurity comes down to who wins the AI arms race? Because right now, attackers are already using AI to move faster, automate attacks, and scale in ways that we've never seen before. So the real question is, can defenders keep up? That's exactly where CrowdStrike is changing the game. They're not just layering AI into existing tools. They've built a purpose-driven, agentic platform that can actually reason and take action, securing both organizations and the AI systems they rely on. And as someone who's worked as a security analyst, I can tell you firsthand how much time gets lost in alert fatigue, which is exactly why this kind of shift matters. CrowdStrike's Falcon platform acts like a force multiplier for your security team, helping you operate at a completely different level. We're talking about an agentic SOC, where intelligent agents handle detection, triage, investigation, and response across endpoints, identities, cloud, and SaaS, all with human insights and guardrails built in. There are already more than 10 out-of-the-box agents available today, and with Charlotte AI AgentWorks, teams can even build their own. But the real advantage here is the combination of data and human judgment. These agents are trained on years of real experience from SOC operators, incident responders, and threat hunters. So instead of analysts getting buried in alerts all day, they're stepping back while actually leading and directing AI agents that are moving at machine speed. For security leaders, this is the kind of shift that separates teams that stay ahead from the ones playing catch up. And for those in their cybersecurity career journeys, this is where the SOC is going. The people who understand agentic security now are going to be the ones leading teams in the near future. The AI era is already here. The only question is, who holds the advantage? If you want to understand how the modern SOC is transforming and what that means for your team or your career, check out CrowdStrike's virtual AI summit to see how the AI advantage is shaping the future of security through the link in my bio.
Oh my gosh, cool. How's it feel to watch a video of yourself on this screen for like
awkward, but it was great.
I think it was extremely excellent. So let's kick off, right? So this is the new world that we're operating in, the new world where media creators, trust, and brands are like converging. And for years, like creators were viewed as a consumer marketing tactic, right? We see them on Instagram, TikTok, you see creators on social media platforms where all of us are like shopping for clothes or looking at olive oil or whatever we're doing online, right? For years, they've been viewed as a consumer marketing tactic. Maybe Vab, can you answer this? What are you seeing today that makes creators a critical part of the B2B buying journey and a new and emerging part of the B2B buying journey, especially in cybersecurity?
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a fascinating space because, as you said, creators long looked at as the consumer tactic, but things are changing so quickly, which may be the most obvious statement ever said in cybersecurity and AI. You look at the video of Sandra specifically. I think what that example illustrates, it doesn't feel like a brand trying to be a creator. It feels like a creator is just talking to their audience. Sandra has a deep understanding of how this community consumes information, in particular, how her audience consumes that information. Our job wasn't to turn her into CrowdStrike spokesperson, right? We had a topic where her audience and our expertise naturally intersected. And the content connected that conversation to CrowdStrike and ultimately gave the viewers that are interested somewhere useful to go next through our virtual SOC event. So, to the bigger question of like what's happening in B2B, I think the bigger change isn't the creators, it's actually the buyers. And the way I think about it is that B2B buyers are still consumers. Their expectations don't reset at 5 p.m. After they're off work. I think we've all gotten trained in this age of AI where information is expected to be immediate, understandable, and useful, right? What's the most annoying thing when your LLM of choice gives you a bunch of slop and you're like, no, just tell me the thing I want to know.
You start to yell at it a little.
Exactly, right? And the problem isn't finding information anymore because information is absolutely abundant. It's figuring out what deserves your attention and who deserves your trust. And I think that's where credible creators can really come in. And practitioners can find that to be really valuable. They help people interpret information, not simply distribute it. And in cybersecurity, this is so critical because expertise and credibility matters so enormously, right? Again, the information is abundant. It's the confidence that has now become scarce.
I love that. That's such a great point that, we've seen and we're seeing the current, I don't want to say slopification of the internet, but there's so much content coming out. There's so much video and audio and especially written text that it's hard to know what should one pay attention to. Anyone else on this panel, like, do you have other thoughts on why or the driving factor behind the rise of cyber creators in our industry?
Yeah, I do think from my perspective, kind of following up on what Bab was already saying, I do think that the global audience is changing, especially where consumers and B2B customers kind of converge. So that also means the people who are evaluating the cybersecurity tools that they use might already be following cyber practitioners or cyber creators on LinkedIn before they've talked to a vendor or thought about B2B marketing, for example. So I think by the time, a SOC lead, for example, or a CISO might be filling out a demo form, they might already have an opinion about a tool or a vendor. And oftentimes that might have also came from a cyber creator or someone on a platform like LinkedIn who shared their experience. So I do think that kind of area is converging between creators and then also the B2B marketing side.
It's interesting. It's like creators are also part of the dark funnel now, right? Like dark funnel was such a big phrase du jour like a few years ago, right? People are talking about your brand in communities. They're visiting web pages that aren't tracked. And yes, they are watching videos on platforms, on social media platforms like LinkedIn. And you don't necessarily know that they watched it, but they trust the voices of the people that they are watching. So I love it. We're going to launch a poll here. We're going to launch a poll correctly. I'm going to press publish this poll. We want to know for the audience so that we can also, help answer questions for the audience. Like, where is your team currently at with creator and influencer marketing? Tell us. I press publish on the poll. Can you guys see it? I hope it showed up correctly. And if not, our friend Alex will help us make sure that it shows up correctly. But we'd love to know for the audience, where are you in your journey? Are you identifying and vetting authentic creator, or sorry, that's the wrong one. Yeah, have you not started? Are you doing experimental? Do you have dedicated executive thought leadership programs? Are you an active partnership, or are you fully doing a full funnel approach to your creator strategy? Of it. While people answer this poll, and it has popped up for me, so I assume it popped up for everyone. Bab, this is like, you have a really interesting background because you also worked in consumer brands, right? So most recently, before moving over to CrowdStrike, you worked at Yeti, which was to be, but also is mostly like a consumer brand, at least in my point of view. Like, my first question is why? Why would you leave Yeti, a super cool drink company and a super cool product company, to move into the cybersecurity space?
Yeah, I mean, it's a fair question. Certainly a very cool experience and such an incredible brand. But so is CrowdStrike, right? And look, for me, the commonality in my career is really kind of chasing the opportunity to apply digital transformation at scale, and then point that towards the commercial objectives of whatever company has. And I think, I've loved the consumer space. I've spent almost 20 years in it, but cybersecurity gives an interesting opportunity to apply some of those lessons in a category that's going through so much change, right? You've already touched on some of it in the way that AI is changing how people shop, but from a product standpoint, in the world that we're in, AI is changing the threat landscape, the technology, the way customers educate themselves at the same time. All of that is happening at the same time. And from a digital experience standpoint, it's just such a fascinating problem. And maybe I'm just a glutton for punishment and excited to take something like that on. But like, as much of a change as it feels like, what I'm discovering these first couple of months is how much isn't different. And we've already talked a little bit about this, right? The B2B and the B2C buyer are sort of converging together. The tactics are converging together. As I said, the person that's buying enterprise technology, they're a consumer after 5 p.m. and they're probably using the same device to do the research and to consume the content. And ultimately, you find that commonality between B2B and BTC buyers, which is they want clarity. They're looking for people that they trust to make complicated decisions. And nobody wants to work harder and do any unnecessary steps to understand things. And AI, of course, is sometimes making that easier for us, but also creates a little bit of a moving target for us as marketers.
I love it. Sorry, folks. So like, so that's awesome, and I love that you're porting over also to that that B2C experience. It's been into this like enterprise cybersecurity space because it's been a long held belief by the Cybersecurity Marketing Society that yes, like CISOs are CISOs and they could be very serious, but they're also people, right? Like the buying team is composed of people, not of robots, not of folks that just have to check boxes, but real people. And I'm very glad to see that CrowdStrike is sort of being a leader in creating these creator campaigns because it does bring that B2C element to our B2B industry, and I think it legitimizes it for the industry, and it makes it so that we could all be a little more creative and try some new things in our marketing.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think what you're outlining, making a cybersecurity decision, the stakes are probably different than buying a personal item. But
Yeah.
what we're touching on here is like the psychology is so similar of how you make those decisions, the things that you gravitate towards, things that grab your attention. I think we're headed to a place where trust used to be very centralized. Brands used to own their trust. We've talked about trust being more distributed now, and I think that is such an exciting place to be in. And again, going back to me, like I'm intrigued by the challenge of like trying to chart a path in that type of an area.
Love it, love it. So trust has always mattered, and this is for the room, right? Sandra, Eric, feel free to jump in too. But so trust has always been, I think, the defining most critical element of a cybersecurity brand and of cybersecurity campaigns. Like that's my personal opinion, and I think it feels even more crucial today. Again, like we talked about, like there's so much AI-driven content. There's so much AI in the environments of where people are trying to figure out trusted sources for information about solutions, about products, about what works and what doesn't. So how is trust being built differently than it was just a few years ago? Room.
Yeah, I can jump in on that. I'm going to sound like a broken record today, just agreeing with everything that Fab.
I know we're going to have a big happy family panel.
Yeah. And of course, it only took us a couple of minutes to bring AI into the conversation. So I'll pick up on that thread. So picking up what everyone's saying around AI, I've been working at LinkedIn for 9 years and worked with a number of brands within those 9 years, most specifically in the tech industry. And we always knew brand investment, upper funnel, middle funnel, built trust. Those conversations we've been having for the last 9 years. But with the rise of the large language models, that has accelerated the value and importance and understanding behind those tactics far more quickly than I ever thought possible. And the reason behind that is a lot of what Vav and Sandra are saying is that information is so democratized. When you have a buying challenge that you're questioned with, you're going to go to a large language model and you can get all this information. So what that has done is really shifted a lot of how our brands are showing up on LinkedIn. And what I mean by that is the backbone of our business was really built around ebooks, white papers, webinars, and we're starting to see very, very different content because they can get all that content through these large language models. So how do you build that trust on the platform and give our users a variety of content that typically they haven't engaged with in the past? So tested a lot of different products and solutions to put creators at the forefront and video, which we'll talk a little bit about later. And we're seeing a lot more of that because we need to differentiate ourselves from those large language models and where people are going to get information. And at the end of the day, repeat it like everyone said, people trust people more than they trust brands. Not to say brands are not trusted, but if you see a person, using the product and giving their own personal review, you trust that inherently. So that's kind of where we're focused on a LinkedIn perspective.
Love it. I see some people commenting and agreeing with the panelists here today. So Sarwat says a natural call to action by a trusted face will always get me. And Valerie had a comment on what you said, Vab. Having done the same shift from B2C, to cyber. Cannot agree more. Cyber is such a multifaceted space. Love it. Awesome. So I'm going to direct this next one to Sandra. And it's interesting, right? Because there's a multitude of online platforms out there for creators. Like we talked before, there's LinkedIn. There's also these other platforms like TikTok or Instagram, etc. So there's creators on every single platform. What makes LinkedIn creators uniquely, and we talked about this in the pre-call. So like, and I agree with it. Like, what makes LinkedIn creators uniquely valuable for B2B cybersecurity marketers who might want to be engaging in a creator campaign?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing here is also the context. So, for example, on LinkedIn, people show up as their professional selves. So, this is their title, their company, their career attached to basically every interaction that they're having on the platform. So, when a security engineer engages with my content on LinkedIn, you kind of roughly know who they are and also essentially where they sit in that buying process from a B2B perspective. And that I think is very different from, a follower on TikTok or YouTube, for example. So not to mention that the audience on LinkedIn is also more senior and a lot more diverse. And that whole audience is a lot more concentrated on LinkedIn compared to any other platform that I've been on. So because the decision makers are also spending time on LinkedIn, one thoughtful post can also kind of land in front of the right person who may be signing the contract, which you wouldn't see anywhere else. So in my opinion, I feel like as a creator who is on every platform, I found that the engagement on LinkedIn is where it actually reaches the right people that you want to target in a B2B environment. And I think that matters a lot more than just raw view counts. For example, 1 million views on TikTok may not mean nearly as much as 30, 40, 50K on a LinkedIn short form video, for example. And that really just comes down to audience quality. And also because LinkedIn right now is my biggest platform, and more than 30% of my audience on here is senior or director and above, which also says a lot to, the decision makers that are in the audience.
That's awesome. Are you able to pull those metrics from LinkedIn easily?
Yes. And there's no other platform that I've seen that can go that in depth because it tells you literally who your audience is, who they are, if they work for a smaller company or a bigger company, their seniority level. So it's very diverse analytics that's really helpful for any kind of creator campaign or B2B marketing.
Love it. That's awesome. Eric, I feel like you have you you probably have a specific point of view here, given that you work at LinkedIn. But Vav, what do you think about this too? What do you think about the audience on LinkedIn as opposed to other platforms?
Yeah, I mean, I think what Sandra just said is so true, and the key word in that was context, right? It's professional context that's associated. And look, she touched on it again. Different platforms serve different purposes, but that professional context on LinkedIn really creates room for much deeper conversations around expertise, of course, careers and technology, business problems. In cybersecurity specifically, what you see is that practitioners, executives, creators, buyers, they're all participating in the same conversation. Eric said democratized a little bit earlier. The conversation has become democratized, and that creates a really useful intersection, between expertise and reach, and that's where I think LinkedIn really shines as the platform that allows so much of that conversation to take place so freely, and it's almost expected now, right? Like it's not awkward. You can jump into anybody's comment section, have a meaningful conversation. You never know which webinar you might end up on.
Oh, is that what happened here? Love it. Awesome. So, and let's talk a little bit about like content, because we also are getting a lot of Q&A messages right now about content on in the Q&A. So folks, you could keep that coming. So Sandra, you've built one of the largest like cybersecurity communities, both off of the LinkedIn platform and on the LinkedIn platform. What do your audience and what do cybersecurity audiences in general expect from creators that maybe they don't expect on other platforms, or that they just expect in general from voices like you?
Yeah, I think I want to speak to this from a cybersecurity perspective specifically, because I do think that the biggest thing that someone from the outside might miss is how technical, but also how skeptical a cyber audience is. Trust is a very big thing here. Like as we've been kind of saying throughout this whole webinar. But I feel like in a lot of B2B spaces, maybe you can get by with more generic content or being high level. But I feel like in cybersecurity, if you get a detail wrong, like you said, or like Bab said, you will likely hear about it within a few minutes in the comments, and rightly so, because people are making real security decisions based on the things they learn. And for example, I have a cybersecurity news bite series where I share weekly cyber news. And if I'm getting details wrong, I'm going to hear about it in the comments. And a lot of times, news in cybersecurity shifts and changes so quickly, things can update so fast, and you always want to stay on top of what's actually correct. And that is why the trust of your audience is huge, even more so than I feel like any other sector in general, even out of tech. So for example, when there's a big breach or a big event, something you shared a few hours ago may not even be accurate that same day because of how fast these things change. So the bar for accuracy is much higher than most other industries. But I also think that on the flip side, when you do finally earn this audience's trust, it also runs incredibly deep. And that is why it's because they know it's how rare it is to find someone that is both technically credible, but also, kind of able to explain things in a way that everyone can understand, from someone who's technical on the ground versus someone who is, an executive or a CISO. And I do think that combination is also what is uniquely valuable for B2B cybersecurity creators and their audiences.
I love it. We have a question in the audience in the Q&A that I think ties directly to this, so I'm going to ask it. What do you think about like types of content that work when you're building a campaign, maybe with the brand? Like, do you like to stay towards educational content? Do you do other types? Do you do humor ever? Like, what do you think resonates with your cybersecurity audience on LinkedIn?
Yeah, I like to think of this as speaking to different segments of my audience, since there's a lot of people now here. Very, very grateful for that. I have, cybersecurity learners who are maybe still in college or they're entry level. And then I also have mid-level professionals who are, 3 to 5 years into their career. And then I have more senior folks, directors, CISOs. So I kind of cater my post depending on the audience I'm trying to reach. So if I'm making cybersecurity news content, I try to make that generally accessible to everyone, whether it be in the details I'm writing or the way I'm writing that's understandable in a way that's easily digestible. But I do try to, I like to think I'm kind of a funny person, sometimes. So I'll sprinkle in humor when it makes sense, because it's not necessarily, I know LinkedIn is a professional platform, but you also want to show the human side of you. I also share, my personal career anecdotes, my past failures. I mean, everyone has, the human side of them. And I do think incorporating that into your content can go a long way in terms of building that connection and not only that relationship, but also the trust over time with your audience. So I kind of see it as, speaking to different audiences, and like if it's a learning resource, then I'll make it more catered towards my beginner audience. And it really depends on who you're trying to reach, I guess is what I'm saying.
I love it. And it's so, the robots aren't funny yet. So only humans are funny. That's what I think. I'm going to stand on that. And any robots who are mad at me can email me afterwards. There is someone made a comment. Jen says, yep, Sandra, 100%. People may be more likely to trust a person rather than a brand, but our audience does not implicitly trust, right? Security professionals without that trust being earned. Which is so true. On the topic of building trust and building, growing an audience, there is responsibility with shaping, technical perspectives online. There's a responsibility that comes with being a voice. How do you think about that? What are you doing to ensure, like you said, that that you are responsibly creating content and responsibly putting out cybersecurity content into the world?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just making sure your I's are dotted and your T's are crossed, making sure you're doing the due diligence when you're making these posts, especially when it comes to cyber news. So that also means a lot of research beforehand. Sometimes just doing the preliminary research of a short form video or a long form video takes more than the filming of the actual content. So there's definitely a lot of responsibility that I personally, hold very highly when it comes to that kind of content, especially on LinkedIn, because I know there could potentially be decisions made based on what I'm posting. So I always think about that first and foremost when it comes to any kind of news content. And for everything else, I do think just giving yourself, the grace, the honesty, and making sure that what you're putting out there is actually relevant and useful to people. That's my number one goal from all the content that I make on any platform.
Oh, awesome. All right, so let's talk about content and about campaigns in particular, right? So this is for Vab and Sandra. Let's talk about that CrowdStrike campaign, that CrowdStrike collab. I love that we're doing collabs in our industry. The collab that Sandra and CrowdStrike did. Why did a partnership together make sense, and what did both of you learn from the execution of this campaign?
Yeah, I'll give it a shot, I guess. I'll echo what Sandra just said, which is in cybersecurity, you cannot manufacture expertise, right? The audience knows, and that's one of the reasons I would say any creator relationship that you're going to enter into has to really start with credibility first. It's not just about finding someone who's got reach, because that won't fly with your audience. So in this particular case, our starting point wasn't that, hey, we need a creator. The starting point was, is there a credible intersection between the audience, the topic that we want to talk about, and the person that we're going to bring in to potentially have that conversation? So because Sandra has that established credibility with a cybersecurity audience, that's the right starting point from my standpoint. So we had something substantive to talk about around AI and the Falcon platform, what we're doing in terms of agentic SOC. And the collaboration really allowed that particular subject to be explained in Sandra's voice and format, right? So we're not doing coaching or giving production notes of like, you should talk about it this way. I think that's a mistake too. I think if you're a brand who's over directing the creator, you're going to lose that authenticity with their audience, and now you've probably lost before you've even started. So short form content has to be able to meet people where they're already consuming content. In this case, LinkedIn, as we've talked about, is such a great place to bring that to. And it allows us to do the targeting to connect it to the interested viewers that expand beyond Sandra's established audience. So to me, the learning isn't, hey, everybody go hire creators. That would be too easy if it were that way. So I think if you can find a natural intersection around audience, subject, and creators, it will feel right to your audience, and that's the starting point, right? It's relevance, I guess, to bring an old B2B B2C term into the B2B world. It's all about audience relevance. It's personalization in a way.
I love it. Sandra, what did you learn? What do you think about this?
Yeah, I do want to speak specifically from the creator side because first of all, I 100% agree with everything that Vab was saying. And I was really excited for this campaign because I do think that it perfectly aligned with my content and my audience. And usually when it comes to campaigns like this, I try to start it out with a big hook that kind of captures everyone's attention. Whether you are a new cyber learner, you're like, oh, agentic SOC, what's that? Or if you're a CISO, you've likely already know the term, and you're like, what's the news on that? So there's something relevant to everyone who might be watching. So starting with a big hook like that, I think that I knew members of my audience would be curious about, I think was really helpful. And then going to, of course, the details about CrowdStrike's agentic SOC, and then ending with that closing CTA of, hey, you can learn more here. If they've watched to the end of the video, they're most likely interested in learning more and seeing what else is out there or seeing what else they can learn. And I found that this formula really works well, especially when it's directed at the right technical audience. And I'm also really grateful for the team at CrowdStrike to be able to be open to that vision, and like Vab said, not like over directing, but giving the perfect amount of support where is needed, and just having a video that aligns with my audience, but also hits all of the targets that they want to hit for the campaign. So it's a win-win on both sides when it comes to this. So it was lovely.
That's awesome. There's a question from Dylan that's in the Q&A that I think is directly relevant, and we're not going to talk about specifics of like numbers or anything, but Vab, like in general, right? In general, like from your past experience, how do you quantify what's successful in campaigns when you're working with influencers? So like, is it views? Is it like, how do you think about that if someone wanted to set up a new like influencer campaign?
Yeah, I think it starts with being really tight on what your goals and objectives are. I kind of do the math in reverse is what I would advise everybody. And It's less so about, hey, I need to put a certain percentage of my budget on creators or on a particular platform. That's not how I think about this particular question, right? So to me, it's what is the job that needs to be done through any particular activation or any particular channel? And it's clearly identifying what the strengths are that you can lean into. So are we talking about discovery, education, validation, decision making? Where are you in the customer journey? Where are you trying to meet the buyer at that particular point? Different environments, different channels, and different tactics are going to be good at different parts of those. And I think the challenge for any marketing organization is to do enough experimentation to learn that, and then be disciplined enough to act on that on an ongoing basis. Because a lot of times, we may have the data, but then it's like, well, this is what we really want to do, and that's a difficult place to be. So, you have to sort of disconnect what feels right with what you're being guided by based on your results. I think, again, this is where LinkedIn has an important role because of professional identity expertise. That content really exists together, and the creators can add that added dimension where you connect the brand expertise with trusted human voices. So the strategic question really isn't, should I spend more on brand media or performance media? It's which experience is needed at each point of the buyer journey to help progress to the next stage until you get to that closed stage. Less about channels, more about the job each one of those interactions need to do for you.
I love it. It's about the job. It's not about channels. It's about what's the goal and then setting it up to meet the goal. Love it. So how does LinkedIn fit into CrowdStrike's broader digital marketing, scheme, world, like strategy? And how do you view shifting, like the shift of creator budgets from experimental initiatives into like core performance line items? And a lot of people are also asking questions about budgets and how to fit creator into budgets. So would love to hear about that.
Yeah. So look, I won't go into specifics of our budget, but again, I will share my philosophy of how I think about this, and you'll have to kind of connect the dots. I'm a huge believer in test and learn, and I think that carries forward from B2B to DTC all the time. I think as an effective marketer, as an effective digital marketer, if you're going to carve out a line item in your budget, carve it out for test and learn. You always have to have that experimentation engine always running to understand. And the market is moving so much. And again, in our space, in cybersecurity, where every day you wake up not knowing what the news of the day is going to be, it's so important to be ready to react to that. And so, from LinkedIn's standpoint, as I said, it's a place where we get to be targeted. We're getting to curate and encourage the conversation across the entire spectrum of the decision-making party, if you will, right? Practitioners are involved, someone from procurement is involved, someone from the CISO office is involved, and the CISO themselves may be involved too. So it's a broad audience, but you're counting on LinkedIn to sort of be that connective tissue. You're going to help us get to the right folks at the right moment. A lot of capabilities from a targeting standpoint. Obviously, Eric can speak to this much more eloquently than I can in terms of products and capabilities, but it's an important part, obviously, of what we do. I will put placeholder budgets on paper at the start of every quarter with a bunch of asterisks that say subject to change based on results. And that is just basically how I believe digital has to be managed, very dynamically, and you've got to be very nimble with your decision making.
That's awesome. And I also don't represent anyone on this call. And this is only from Gianna's previous employers. I represented them at the time. But when I would do an experimental budget, I would like to lock out like 10% in my budget for anyone listening who wants a hard number. Not representative of anyone else on this call, just for me. Okay, so let's talk about how you can actually scale what you're doing with creators on LinkedIn into getting more eyeballs and more audience on it. So the key products that cybersecurity marketers should think about to scale what they're doing with creators or maybe with their own executives, because executive thought leadership we didn't touch much on, but is something that can be amplified on platforms like LinkedIn. So maybe Eric, you could lean in. I also have a little deck I could pop up and share to help support this. But so like, what are key products that marketers can think about to scale these initiatives?
Yeah, definitely. And Gianna, it's funny, I actually sent a budget proposal about 2 weeks ago, and there was a 10% flex budget for testing. So glad we're all aligned there. So yeah, I'll talk about three different products. I think there are a couple of themes coming up in this conversation, which is like trust and authenticity, as well as a shift in buying and consumer behaviors. So that's something we were seeing very broadly across our platform, and we knew that we kind of had to evolve in the type of content that we were bringing to the feed and where we're seeing a lot of engagement from. So going to talk through a few of these products. Won't go, in too much detail from a technical perspective, but I think they're definitely products and solutions that everyone on the call can has access to and can test. So the first is thought leader ads. So this has been in the platform for probably about a year or two now, and seeing really strong engagement from, which is I think what we're hearing in this conversation is that the trustedness of the human voice, and that's exactly what thought leader ads do. So thought leader ads are able to put paid spend behind the organic posts from creators, your executives, your employees, or even people that don't work for you, and take that content and put it in front of your exact audience that you're looking for. So, for the topic of today, if we wanted to take a post from the CMO of CrowdStrike, whatever it is, we'd be able to put that in front of CISO specifically, and everyone has access to do this with their ideal ICP and using the employees at their company. And very recently, you're also able to extend to individuals that don't work for your company. So that's kind of falls into some of the creator realm. Another one I want to talk about, video, just the importance of video and what we're seeing and how we consume media, and really how that drives through the entire funnel down to the performance aspect. So in-stream ads, able to take those video and put it on multiple different platforms, whether that's on our audience network, partnering with large publishers as well as connected TV. So that's been a really fun product for us to work with our partners on the last couple of years, is bringing those products to life. So bringing video to the connected TV devices. So BrandLink is been around for a little while now, but there's a new twist to BrandLink, which is really excited for the creator side of this. So we do have long form content posted on LinkedIn through the various publishers we work with, as well as the creators. So the creators are putting a lot of long form content on the platform, and you're able to partner with both these publishers and these creators and put your video assets within their video content. So if Sandra were to post a 5-minute long video through BrandLink, brands are able to sponsor her video and put their interstitial video within her longer form content. So that works now for both the creator side as well as working with publishers. And the last one I want to talk about, which is really exciting. It's not fully rolled out, but it definitely in the process, and everyone will have access very soon, is creator discovery. So typically you're kind of hearing Vab and Sandra talk about the process that they went through to partner together. We're really helping out brands do that in a much more streamlined way. So creator discovery is available within the platform, and you're able to source and find creators on the LinkedIn platform that are aligned contextually. So if you are a cybersecurity marketer, you can go into the creator discovery tool, find creators that are have cybersecurity audiences, and reach out to partner with them directly. Historically, that's a lot of from bandwidth to you have to do that first party or third party through an agency. And we're really playing, I think, Vab used that word, the connective tissue between brands and creators now on the platform through our creator discovery. So really excited for a lot of our brands to start tapping into that.
That's awesome. I'm going to launch a poll also about, for folks who are running creator campaigns, like what is your single biggest hurdle when scaling creator content? So I just launched that poll. It should theoretically pop up pretty soon. I'm going to make sure it pops up, and feel free to fill in that poll as well. Awesome. So, and I want to plug also Thought Leader Ads. I don't yet have access to the creator marketplace. And I'm super excited, Eric, to hear that it's rolling out to more and more folks. But at the Cybersecurity Marketing Society, we have a small LinkedIn budget, which we always spend the entirety of every month. And we love thought leadership ads. We run them on myself, on Maria. If you've seen our co-founder, Maria Velasquez audience, some ads from her. And it's just a really great way to put like your people in front of other folks on LinkedIn. I mean, Vab, you also have strong opinions and thoughts on like executive thought leadership. Maybe you could talk a little bit about that, and how you can use these to build up your own internal people as well, not just work with creators. Creators are great, but create creators and influencers inside your own company.
Yeah, there's an opportunity to create a lot of creators these days, I guess. It's a fascinating space, and not that we're trying to give Sandra a run for her money, because I think they serve distinct purposes, right? We've talked about this a little bit before. This conversation that's taking place, and we'll talk about cybersecurity specifically, is these buying decisions, they're long. The motion on this can be very long unless there's something immediate that's causing you to make a decision. But everybody's got their own procurement process, which is never as fast as you want it to be. And so at some point in that, if you have to, if you need justification, if you need a better explanation, a lot of times executive thought leadership can play that role. It's another perspective to include in your business case, if you were, right? If you're the buyer, it's a great place to get that level of expertise. So to your point, it also helps to build up your executives from a branding standpoint, which is a good added benefit. But it's a certain level of expertise that previously was maybe absent from the conversation, had to be inferred. Someone make a phone call, maybe you could get someone that you knew. So I think there's a place for it. Like with anything that you're going to do from a creator standpoint, anything that's video related, I think I would urge you to be careful, because you can overdo it. Everything in balance.
What do you mean you can overdo it?
Well, look, quality of content is still king, in my opinion, right? So I think in the world of AI, we've become all trained of like, well, I can create content quickly. I can crank out 10 different scripts. I just need someone to read it. I can create 10 different pages. I just need someone to direct to it. And I think that's a very slippery slope, and quality remains a really high bar that has to be met. Executive thought leadership plays a really important piece of that. But like with anything else, you can't over-rotate into any one particular tactic. That's my opinion.
Love it. Sandra, do you have any thoughts too, since you've been on that creator side of the house?
I would actually second exactly what Bab said, because I find that there are like LinkedIn creators or posts who will make multiple posts a day, or post every single day. And I've actually found, just as a creator, that posting less on LinkedIn actually helps if the post is quality. It's 100% always going to be quality over quantity. At one point I've tested it where I posted every single day, 5 days, during the weekdays. And I found that my reach in total for all 5 posts was not as high as compared to me in my typical posting schedule, which was just 2 to 3 times a week, but making them like super action packed, like super punchy, like it's shareable. People want to talk about it. People want to save it or send it to someone else that they know on LinkedIn. Those are the posts that do really well. And if you have one post getting, 50,000 impressions compared to, 5 posts getting 10K impressions, it's completely different. So, and not to mention that the next time someone sees your posts after seeing, a really good punchy post, they're more likely to engage with it or, continue growing that trust, compared to seeing, a somewhat, lackluster post, but then seeing a lot of them all the time, they might start to ignore them because, they're just not as helpful or not as useful. So definitely what Bob said, quality over quantity on LinkedIn especially.
I love it. That's such a good point. Quality builds trust, like you said, right? I always know this person is going to create a great piece of content. I always want to hear what they have to say because it's always great. There are newsletters I read in my inbox where I will always read them. And there are ones that I just skim because I'm like, So it definitely makes a lot of sense. This is our last sort of like big question. And then we have speed round and then that's it, folks. If you have more questions, put them in the Q&A and say anything you want in the chat. And okay, so our last thing is about the funnel. Creators in video are often categorized as top of funnel tactics, right? Like it's awareness. But according to the folks here in this panel, it's not necessarily true. So how can working with creators and creating videos, etc., influence buyers across the entire funnel? Whether it's awareness, like I said, and like we're all traditionally sort of aware of, or all the way down to like purchase decision. Who wants to jump in?
Well, I'll jump in since we've agreed on so much. I'll give you all an opportunity to disagree with me on something. I don't think there is a funnel. I think the funnel died a long time ago. We keep referring to a very linear funnel of people moving from certain stages. I think there's a flywheel of continuous awareness, discovery, and education. And somewhere along that line that doesn't exist is now circular. You make a decision and you move forward. Your buyers could enter at any point in that flywheel, right? There's a certain amount of awareness, to the point you just made, Gianna, that already exists. If you think about, where your website fits in the funnel, we used to think that the site is where, brand credibility and trust was built. I would say now the website is where brand credibility and trust is validated, because people already have a point of view by the time they get there. We used to think about new and returning customers, right? New and returning visitors coming to your website. I don't really know what that means anymore, because what does new really mean? That means that's the first time in 30 days that they visited your website. Are they really new to you? Are they new to your brand? Probably not. So I think the concept of thinking like we're taking you through a very linear funnel, and if I can just get you to this stage, then I've got you over the hump. Like I just don't think it works that way anymore. It's just an ongoing motion. Sort of like just going around. I'm gonna show my age a little bit. It's like going to a roller rink back in the 80s. You're just going around, and there's a bunch of different doors you can get onto the rink at any point. It's kind of like that. To me, that's what's happening from a digital marketing standpoint.
I love it, and I'm not going to disagree with you. I think when we talk, I do think, though, when you think about the funnel as a way to explain to people, like so we've all seen the Gartner. Has everyone here seen the Gartner buying journey for B2B tech? I will have to send it to everybody afterwards. It's like one of my favorite diagrams. There's thumbs up coming from the crowd, where it's like exactly like Vab said. Like there's how a purchase decision gets made covers so many people, and there are people who are unaware, there are people who are aware, etc. And it just is like this big giant, like one of those, if you've ever been to a diner where they have like a maze for children on the back of it, that's what that Gartner buying journey looks like now. Getting a lot of thumbs up from the crowd. That said, I still think the funnel and like aware, like buying, etc. is helpful to explain to folks who are not in marketing, like what maybe something like where someone is. So anyone else have thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, I would have loved to disagree with Fab on that one, but I'm going to agree. I think if anyone tells you they can tell you exactly where their buyer is in the funnel and what content to serve them, they're probably wrong, because that requires extremely accurate data, and most data is not accurate for the most part. And there's so many different data points to really hone in on where they're on the funnel is very challenging. And to Bab's point, they move out of the funnel because budgets change, and then they move back in. So what we're seeing, I think, broader in the industry is a lot of the brands I'm working with are moving away from these kind of historical, there goes the light again, the historical attribution models of first touch, last touch, multi-touch, and really moving to like account engagement models. And why that's very important in terms of what we're talking about today with creators, videos, is understanding, Bab said earlier, the buying journey is extremely long. They are engaging with so many different pieces of types of content throughout that entire buying journey. That video and creators and thought leader ads, they serve such a strong place in that long buying journey, and understanding your ICP, your accounts, what content they're engaging with within that year and a half buying journey, whatever it may be, is where we're seeing this big shift. So it's not as much, did we get the lead? They completed a lead gen form and then it ended up being a sale. It's we need to serve them content wherever they are in their journey, and like what does that look like from the brands that are buying from us, and that's where like a lot of these different product solutions that we're talking about today really come in, and how do you kind of test that, measure, and learn from it.
There is Melanie in the chat says the thought leadership awareness point is important at all stages of the journey or wheel spin of said flywheel. Good point. Awesome. Anyone else want to opine on that? Eric and Vab, do you guys want to fight on the webinar? No, you guys were agreeing. So awesome. Okay, folks, lightning round. If there is, I think there's time for like one round. What is one thing that security marketers should start doing today that they're maybe not doing or maybe not thinking about from a B2B campaign's perspective. Eric, let's let you go first this time.
We said start doing?
Start doing, yeah.
Right.
We had like
Okay.
stop doing and start doing in our pre-call, and it was like, let's do start. That's a little positive.
Okay. Start doing. I'm actually going to steal the answer I just gave, which was looking at your measurement and content strategy holistically. Just because years across B2B and B2C, kind of like that last click attribution was always kind of the source of truth, or first click, whatever you're using, let's pivot and start looking at holistically everything you're doing from, I'll go to your funnel, kind of top to bottom funnel. How does that drive impact? So I think that's a huge opportunity for a lot of marketers to be looking at every cross-channel content diversification, look at it holistically and the impact that's driving. So I think that's a huge opportunity for a lot of marketers.
Love it. Sandra?
I think for me, I really like the idea of the executive thought leadership that we've been talking about on this call. Even as a creator, like it's really impressive to me. So when I'm, seeing an exec from a company posting, and not just as, a creator on LinkedIn, but also someone who's trusted. So I think to start showing the actual humans behind your brand, your company, because people do want that connection, and having that, the standard faceless corporation account probably isn't helping you gain the trust of your clients and customers as much as someone that, is the CTO or the CMO or the CEO making these kinds of posts on LinkedIn and speaking directly to their audience and, the people in their network.
So you heard it here, folks. Everybody has to go to your company brand page on LinkedIn and put the face of your CEO in as the logo instead. Before we go to Vab, one comment I want to read out loud. Bo says, I find the flywheel thought liberating as an early creator because then there's no right way or technique. You focus on authenticity and framing it for your audience. So Vab, you have a thank you in the crowd here for explaining the flywheel. Okay, last one, lightning round. What's one thing security marketers should start doing today, Vab?
Yeah, I'll pile on to the thought leadership, but I would put it this way. It's about making your expertise observable. You've got smart practitioners, researchers, creators. There's a lot of different places to tap. You don't need to tell people that you're an expert. You need to let them experience that expertise. And the flip side of that is don't create content just because the calendar says it's time to create content. That's not how this works anymore, in my opinion.
I love it. This is great. I love everything. I realized I said I love it like 17 times on this call. Folks, thank you so much for joining us. There is a one-pager which you can download in here in this like platform. If you want to learn more about LinkedIn video and creator solutions, reach out to your LinkedIn partner, whoever is in charge of your account. And if you don't know who, you could email us, I guess, and we'll help you get in contact. The future of security marketing, like we all said, isn't about creating more, is about empowering trusted human voices that buyers and cyber communities rely on when decisions matter. Thank you so much. We'll have that one pager out also to you via email. Let us know what you think about this webinar, and we hope to see you on future ones. And thank you so much, Eric, Sandra, and Vav, for being on today. This has been really fun and really enjoyed the conversation.
It's been great. Thanks, Gianna.
Thanks.
All right.
Awesome. Thanks,
Bye,
all.
everyone. Have a great rest of your day.
Bye.